Toastmasters, I'm going to tell you a story that you're part of. When I was with the SEAL team for about 7 years, I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. And I started wanting to change. I started reading all kinds of books with people who were great leaders and business people. And my wife bought a book that said Steel Titan. I was a boxer, Navy SEAL. She thought I'd like that book. Well, it was the biography of Charles Schwab, the industrialist. And it was his whole story. And it was fascinating. There was a Civil War veteran, Captain Lee, cantankerous old guy, and he was the chief foreman for Carnegie Steel. And he and Andrew Carnegie would butt heads a lot of times. He had a whole drawer full of resignation notices, and whenever Carnegie would upset him, he would tender his resignation, and he'd have to negotiate. And after a while, they realized that wasn't really a good way of communicating. They needed a buffer. Well, there was this young fella whose family ran the local 5 and Dime where he'd get his coffee and breakfast every morning, and a very congenial guy, and that was Charles Schwab. And he asked him, "Did you go to college?" He said, "Yeah, I went to college." Well, he didn't finish college, but he didn't tell him that. He said, "What'd you study?" He said, "Engineering." Because you got a diploma? Well, back then they gave a diploma for every class that you completed. So he had a diploma for engineering. So he turns it in, and they hired him at the lowest level, working as a layman in the plant, in the Bethlehem plant, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And then they put out a notice asking people to come in on a Saturday for no pay. And he was the only one that showed up. And his reward was to be the courier between Captain Lee and Andrew Carnegie. And they became friends, and then the union started up, and there was a picket line at the Bethlehem plant on the pier, and they hired the Pinkertons. Carnegie hired the Pinkertons to break up the picket line, and they didn't do it very well. They came on a boat, and the union guys beat them up one by one when they came off the pier. So Carnegie had to negotiate. But what he ended up doing was put Schwab as the evening foreman for that plant, and through his leadership made that the top producing plant in all of Carnegie Steel, got promoted to president of Carnegie Steel, and at a meeting, or at a banquet in his honor, he gave an impromptu speech on his vision of distributing steel. And in the audience was J.P. Morgan, who was backing financially a group that was going to compete against Carnegie. Now they were more along the distribution. They had barbed wire and telegraph wire and railroad ties and railroad cars and shipbuilding and all that. And as he's listening to Schwab, he's like, with what I have with these guys and what Carnegie has with production, we have that. So he met with him, got him to broker a deal with Schwab, which became U.S. Steel, and Schwab became the president of U.S. Steel, which was basically the catalyst that created the Industrial Revolution. Well, the nephew of Andrew Carnegie was Dale Carnegie. And you hear him talking about Schwab and what a great leader he was, and what a great orator he was. And so he wrote the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and started the Carnegie course. There was someone who went to the Carnegie course who was really impressed. His name was Ralph Schmidt. And he was so impressed by the leadership and getting people to be able to be good speakers and orators, but it wasn't cost effective for the average person. So he created the poor man's version of the Carnegie course, and it's called Toastmasters. So you are part of that legacy. Your spoken word. I see attractive women all the time. Most of them are way too young for me, and I got a girlfriend anyways, and I'm like, if I tell them they're good looking, I'm not doing anything for them or me. But an attractive woman, they can speak intelligently, men have to listen to her. So I encourage them to join Toastmasters so that I just did that with Scarlett Johansson. Actually, I'll be sending her this video. But what we have here, you are part of the legacy that can change the world. Our founder has done it through Toastmasters, but he was influenced by Carnegie and Charles Schwab, who really changed the world. We see that in effect today. So what you're doing, this system of getting you to become a better communicator, is going to make you a leader significant enough where your spoken word said to the right person, the right people listening, can change our planet. This is what we do here. This is what the process is. Your first 10 speeches, become a CTM, a Certified Toastmaster. And then going on after that and getting in the speech contest, setting up other clubs or influencing other clubs, mentoring other people. This is what we do here. It's not just a place you come hear interesting stories, but you are actually honing your skills to be a leader and have an effect on this planet.